The girls in this town have all lived for over 100 years, but their appearances have never changed. Their favorite thing to do each day is to tease the boys. Only by doing so can they feel like they're still alive. If someone loses the will to live, they are engulfed by a terrifying black fog. Long ago, a massive explosion at the local steel factory caused the town to seal off all its exits. Ever since then, time has stopped. That means both time and human aging have come to a standstill here. People don't grow old and remain exactly as they were before the explosion, and no one can leave this town to feel alive. Everyone started playing games that brought thrill or pain. At first, everyone believed the explosion was a punishment from the heavens. The steel factory became a machine of the gods, and everyone was trapped in this town by this so-called sacred machine. Until one day, Itsumi quietly took Kikiri to the ruins of the exploded factory. Kikiri had never been there before, and everything seemed unfamiliar and mysterious. But then, he stepped on an odd bone. Suddenly, a little girl leapt at him and clung tightly to his body. She began sniffing him all over. Just then, Itsumi appeared. The little girl, seeing her, shrank back like a scolded child. Under Mitsumi's firm tone, the girl finally calmed down. Later, while Kikiri was cleaning out the chamber pot, he asked Itsumi, "Who was that little girl? Why does she look so much like you?" Itsumi didn't answer directly. She only said that her stepfather had asked her to take care of the girl, and the reason she brought Kikiri here was because she wanted his help looking after her. But to Kikiri, the little girl behaved more like a wild animal. From then on, the two of them took turns caring for the girl. One day, it was Kikiri's turn, but when he arrived at the factory, the girl was nowhere to be found. He only saw some clothes and a stuffed animal. It turned out the girl was playing hide-and-seek with him, rather than a wild animal. She was more like a baby who had just learned to crawl. To Kikiri's surprise, the girl could actually talk. She reminded him so much of Itsumi that he curiously asked, "Are you Mitsumi's twin sister?" But the little girl didn't understand. She just kept repeating Mitsumi's name, since she didn't seem to have a name. Kikiri gave her one, Itsumi. Itsumi was overjoyed to have a name. She ran outside to play on an old, rusted train. Despite her small frame, she moved with surprising agility. Kikiri, who had always wanted to be a painter, immediately began sketching her. At that moment, Mitsumi's stepfather, Sagami, arrived. He referred to Itsumi as a goddess. He firmly believed that the sacred machine had summoned her to save them all. The next day, the boys invited the girls to explore the tunnel. Rumor had it the place was haunted. Even the timid Sanobe wanted to go. Naturally, Itsumi, being her best friend, wanted to go with her. Soon, everyone agreed to go together. That night, they gathered at the train station. The tunnel had long been blocked by a landslide. The rules were simple: go in pairs, walk through the tunnel, and leave a message on the wall. That would count as completing the exploration. Kikiri was paired with Sanobe. As they walked deeper into the tunnel, Sanobe began to feel the trip was meaningless. She decided to just write something on the wall and leave. But when Kikiri saw what she wrote, he was shocked. Sanobe had taken this chance to confess her feelings to him, but Kikiri already had someone he liked. The mood instantly turned awkward. To make matters worse, the others had secretly followed them and overheard everything. Humiliated and overwhelmed, Sanobe ran off. Just then, a crack opened in the sky. Filled with despair, the shy Sanobe could no longer hold it in. She had only wanted to express her feelings to Kikiri, but instead, she became everyone's laughingstock. As she spoke, cracks began to appear across her body. Then, thick smoke from the factory took the shape of a wolf and lunged at her. Though Itsumi rushed in to save her, she was too late. The moment Sanobe completely vanished, the sky returned to normal. After this incident, everyone realized how terrifying this town truly was. There had to be a horrifying truth behind it. Kikiri and the others told the adults what had happened. Sagami, the town's head priest, finally revealed the truth. The factory's smoke came from the sacred machine and formed the sacred machine's wolf. Its purpose was to maintain the stability of this world. Sealing any cracks, Sanobe vanished because she had developed a desire to escape this world. That's why the wolf devoured her. If anyone else wanted to stay alive, they had to keep their hearts calm. They must never allow themselves to feel despair. Kikiri was filled with guilt, believing it was his fault Sanobe died. So he poured his heart out to Itsumi. Though she didn't understand what had happened, she comforted him in her own special way. Unexpectedly, Itsumi walked in on their intimate moment. She was furious. A heated argument broke out between her and Kikiri. just as Kikiri was about to take Itsumi away. Matsumi's tears began to fall uncontrollably. Her best friend had vanished, and now the person she liked was getting close to someone else. But there was no time for explanations, because Sagami had also found them. In a panic, Kikiri grabbed Matsumi and Itsumi, and they fled the scene. They ran to a strange, airy place. Even stranger, as Itsumi began to breathe heavily, a rift appeared in the sky once again. On the other side of the rift, a completely different landscape emerged. Itsumi climbed toward the top, full of excitement, wanting only to see more of the outside world. Kikiri, unable to suppress his curiosity, followed her up, ignoring Sagami's pleas to stop. They both climbed to the highest point. In the next moment, the rift in the sky swallowed them whole. That's when Kikiri realized the outside world was the real, actual world, and that once someone from the town entered the real world, they would gradually fade away and disappear just like Itsumi. After seeing that they were safe, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It was only then that Kikiri realized that Itsumi came from the real world. That also explained why she was the only one who could grow up. At this point, Sagami stopped hiding the truth, and he revealed everything. This world was a false reality created by the sacred machine. After the steel factory exploded, the town's economy collapsed. The sacred machine didn't want people to leave, so it created this false world. In other words, everyone here was a projection, an illusion. And now, the rift in this world was growing larger and larger. Even though the sacred machine's wolf worked tirelessly to seal the cracks, it could no longer stop the collapse of this world. When everyone heard this truth, they didn't react with the despair one might expect. In fact, deep down, they had always suspected something was off about this world. The reason they chased after thrills and pain was because they could barely feel anything anymore. They could only cling to vague memories of what sensations once felt like. They couldn't feel cold in winter, nor did they feel heat in summer. From the very beginning, they had sensed that this world might be an illusion. After the news spread, more and more people wished to disappear. The sacred machine's wolf continued to appear and devour these people. Only Sagami firmly believed that the sacred machine would grant them eternal life. Some still chose to believe him. They became his followers. Matsumi refused to live with Sagami, so she and Itsumi moved into Kikiri's home. But one day, a crack appeared in the wall of Kikiri's house. Through the crack, Kikiri saw his real self in the real world. He and Matsumi were already married. Just as he tried to get closer, Matsumi pulled him back. The rift vanished instantly. Kikiri asked why Matsumi didn't seem shocked at all. Matsumi explained that the first time she found Itsumi, she saw a family photo inside her backpack, which meant that Itsumi was actually the daughter of Kikiri and Matsumi in the real world. But Matsumi refused to acknowledge it, because a real mother would never lock her child in a place like that and let her suffer. The real Matsumi must be a kind and gentle mother who's been waiting for her daughter to return. Unfortunately, there was no way to send Itsumi back to the real world. More and more people were disappearing by the day. Classmates were working up the courage to confess their feelings to their crushes. Kikiri, affected by this atmosphere, decided to confess to Matsumi, but she rejected him. Kikiri was confused. They clearly had feelings for each other, so why did she refuse? Through tears, Matsumi said that she didn't truly feel alive and had no sense of meaning or purpose. Kikiri pushed Matsumi to the ground and kissed her. Finally, she was moved by his emotions. But just then, Itsumi walked in and saw everything. She had feelings for Kikiri too, and her heart broke instantly. Her sorrow filled the air, and the cracks in the sky began to fracture uncontrollably. The town was on the brink of complete destruction. The abandoned steel factory stopped producing smoke, signaling that the false world was beginning to collapse. Fragments of the real world began bleeding into the illusion. That's when Kikiri and Matsumi realized that Itsumi was nearby, but Kikiri still didn't understand why she was so upset. Matsumi gently touched her lips and, deep in thought, ran off to find her. The townspeople held an emergency meeting. At this rate, reality would fully break through the rift and destroy the false world. Sagami believed the only way to stop this disaster was to bring Itsumi back to the sacred machine. While packing at home, Kikiri's mother found her husband's old diary and gave it to Kikiri. Inside, he discovered that after the steel factory explosion, his father had found Itsumi on a freight train. She had come from the real world, Riding the train into this place, Kikiri's grandfather had a realization. If the machine that dug into Mount Kami could become the sacred machine, then perhaps a transport machine could too. In other words, if Itsumi boarded that train again, she might return to the real world. Kikiri kept reading the diary. His father had once tried to send Itsumi back, but Sagami had stopped him. He believed Itsumi was the chosen one, and should be imprisoned within the sacred machine to protect this world. When Kikiri's father found the family photo in her backpack, he finally realized that she was his granddaughter. In that moment, he felt grateful to have the chance to meet his future granddaughter in this illusionary world. So he wrote everything down in the diary, but he had no way to send her back to the real world, perhaps out of guilt. His heart filled with despair. In the end, he was devoured by the sacred machine's wolf. After learning of his father's final wish, Kikiri made up his mind to send Itsumi back to the real world. At the same time, Kikiri's uncle, Tokimune, couldn't accept the destruction of this world. He wanted to restart the steel factory in the real world and artificially recreate the sacred machine wolf. Although no one knew if this plan would work, he refused to vanish along with the collapse of this world. Tokimune's proposal gained the support of most people, except for Kikiri, who insisted on sending Itsumi back first. But Tokimune also had someone he wanted to save. Soon after, everyone gathered to discuss how to send Itsumi back to the real world. Kikiri believed that they had to send her through the tunnel crack before the sacred machine wolf awakened. He suspected the crack inside the tunnel might connect directly to the real world. However, Itsumi herself didn't want to go back. She had long lost her past memories. The classmates were also worried that sending her back might accelerate the collapse of the world. During the argument, a group of children lured Itsumi away. The mastermind behind this was Sagami. Upon learning that Sagami had taken Itsumi to the steel factory, Kikiri and Matsumi rushed there immediately. They found Sagami performing a ritual, trying to marry Itsumi to the mountain god. Matsumi was utterly disgusted by her stepfather's actions, while Sagami was distracted. They hurried upstairs to find Itsumi and decided to take her away. They ran to the railway outside, where Kikiri's grandfather arrived just in time to help. He drove a train and took them away from the factory. Meanwhile, their classmates chased after them, determined to keep Itsumi in this world. But the train didn't get far before it derailed. At that critical moment, Kikiri's best friend showed up driving a car. They managed to shake off their classmates, but Sagami caught up again. The crack in the sky kept growing. Time was running out. Suddenly, the car broke down. Kikiri had no choice but to get out and push it himself. At the same time, fireworks from the real-world summer festival lit up the sky. Through the crack, Kikiri saw his real-world self. He stared at a toy in his hand, lost in thought. Back then, Itsumi had wanted that toy so badly. She started crying and throwing a tantrum, so Kikiri and Matsumi pretended to leave to scare her a little, but when they turned back, she was gone. Ever since then, Matsumi had lived in deep regret. This memory made Kikiri even more determined. He had to bring Itsumi back to the real world. Meanwhile, the cracks in the virtual world grew wider. The workers panicked. And just then, the sacred machine wolf finally appeared. For the moment, the virtual world was stabilized. Kikiri finally managed to push the car up the slope. They had to get Itsumi through the tunnel before it was sealed. On the other side, in the real world, Kikiri heard someone ask him to take a picture. He placed the toy on the train, but unexpectedly, the train started moving. Seeing this from the virtual world, Kikiri suddenly came up with an idea. He dashed through the crack to chase the train, even though doing so might cause both him and Matsumi to disappear completely. But he didn't care anymore. The real-world train conductor noticed a vehicle chasing the train, so he stopped. But he saw nothing. Matsumi seized the opportunity and pulled Itsumi onto the train. She didn't want Kikiri to disappear with her, so she pushed him off. Just as Kikiri was devastated, his friends drove up to him. In that moment, the night sky exploded with brilliant fireworks, illuminating the entire city. Itsumi looked at Matsumi, who was becoming more and more transparent. She wanted to go back with her, but then she noticed a toy on the ground. Something about it felt familiar. Matsumi told her, "At the end of that tunnel, there's not just festivals and lights waiting for you. There's so much more. People who love you, people who are waiting for you." That, and the toy in her hand, sparked a distant memory in Itsumi's mind. She realized she didn't belong in this world. Finally, she made up her mind. She handed her veil to Matsumi. By now, the cracks in the sky were rapidly healing, and the train was very close to the tunnel entrance. Matsumi had made up her mind. At just the right moment, she leapt off the train as the crack sealed behind her. Kikiri caught her in his arms. They rolled over and over before finally coming to a stop. They were bruised and bleeding, but Matsumi was smiling, because that pain made her feel alive. They didn't know what kind of consequences might follow after sending Itsumi back to the real world, but they had no regrets. As the train disappeared into the tunnel, everyone cheered. They had succeeded. Inside the train, Itsumi could no longer hold back her tears. In the final scene, a grown-up Itsumi returned to visit the abandoned steel factory. After all, this was the place where she grew up. Every sight, every object, was a precious memory. Back in the virtual world, the sacred machine had sealed all the cracks. The people who remained didn't know how much longer this world could hold together, but for now, they were still alive.